Of course, the Washington Commanders have the second pick in the upcoming draft. It's Combine Week. Everybody believes the Commanders are going to be looking at a quarterback. They brought in an offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury, who coached Caleb Williams, so some people are connecting the dots. Our next guest had a somewhat controversial opinion on Caleb Williams that went viral. It's Merril Hoge, former Steeler and NFL analyst. You can check out his website, merrilhoge.com. He does motivational speaking. What's up, Merril?
How you doing, my boy?
What's up, man?
I'm doing okay.
You guys got good weather? That's all that matters.
It's actually going to be in the 60s this week.
It's definitely a golf week.
Brother, that's all that matters right there. Good for you guys.
Where do you live full time?
Delta Airlines. I just visit other places. But actually, I kind of go back and forth, actually, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I
You love the AFC North cities.
Now
I love it so much. I stay both. I'm looking for a place in Baltimore and Cleveland, then I'm going to be complete.
You'll have them all set.
Wikipedia says you're from Pocatello, Idaho.
Idaho, yeah. 83201.
How many bears did you see in your backyard in Pocatello, Idaho?
Now, where I live, I mean, I worked on a farm and ranch, like a cowboy before I actually really committed to football. I rode bulls and calf roped. And so, you know, I think if you're from the East, what you get confused about the West is actually the West is desert or mountains. So if you're not in the mountains, it's really kind of deserty.
Right.
So I didn't live in the mountains. Now, I've done a lot of bear hunting. So I've seen my share of bears, but never
in Pocatello.
Never in my backyard.
I knew this already, but I have nothing in common with Merril Hoge whatsoever. I mean, you're a cowboy. You're out hunting. You're like an outdoorsman.
Played in the NFL. You played 3 days of high school football.
I got nothing in common with you.
Yeah. Well, this will resonate with you. Probably everybody will resonate. This resonate with you. When I was in high school, I worked on a ranch and a farm, and I lived out more in the farming area. And so after the fall, when you cut the grain down, you could pheasant hunt. And so I'd keep my shotgun in the back of my Buick Skylark, which had 4 doors on it, but I welded 2 of the back doors, so I had a 2-door. So I fit in with the style. And we would I'd leave my shotgun in the back of my car so that I could hunt on the way home after football practice. If you got caught doing that today, you would. So that's what I would do in high school, heading home, because I lived in the farm, so I could bird hunt on the way home because the grain was cut down so you could see the birds if they were running through the fields, and then if you could flush one, and it wasn't easy, man. I probably got 1 bird a year, and I tried it 100 times, so it wasn't easy, but.
Yeah,
I'm sure I thought that would maybe help you connect with me a little bit.
I still got nothing.
It's a little different. It's different than growing up in PG County. All right.
Yeah, I got you.
So let me ask you something, Merril, before we talk about the quarterbacks. Your thoughts on Dan Quinn being hired?
Well, I've got actually tremendous respect for Dan Quinn. I think he's a great leader of men, and that's what you need at that position. You need a leader of men who understands pro football, and you can lead pro football players. And I think that's honestly where it all starts. And I played for Chuck Noll. I played for Bill Cowher. I played for 2 Hall of Famers back to back. And I know the difference between guys that can lead, guys that can't. And I just think that's a pivotal aspect of that position. You know, then it comes down to your staff, you know, the kind of staff that you bring in. I was at ESPN for a long time, and every time this year would come around, people would be leaving, and then people would be hired, and everybody goes, well, what do you think they're going to do? And I'm like, well, tell me who their staff is, and I'll give you a better idea. You know, like I always use Bill Cowher as an example. When Bill Cowher got hired, here was his defensive staff: Dom Capers, Dick LeBeau, and Marvin Lewis.
It's pretty good.
I mean, right, okay, that's the defensive staff. You know, then when you go to his offensive staff, you guys may not know Dick Hoge. Dick Hoge was probably the most respected position coach, one of there's a lot of great position coaches, but one of the greatest of all times. He could have been a head coach, a coordinator. He just chose to stay home to raise his family, didn't want to do that. And then Ron Earhart, who was the offensive coordinator for the Bill Parcells when they won the Super Bowl against Buffalo and Tampa. So you look at all the great minds he put around him, and that's what is so important, is that you get all of these people that are Because honestly, I'd look at it. I actually coached a league with Mike Sherman, and I think everybody on my staff had coached like 25 years in the NFL. And what I loved about that, most of them, now I know football and I know coaching, and I've coached for a long time from ages 8 to 48. So I've coached every level of football. But man, having people that just can bring you thoughts and ideas that you may not think of, which that's what it's all about, is trying to be challenged and expand your learning scope. And at the end of the day, you're the decision maker. But to have people that can challenge you and bring things to you and to the team that help you all grow, I just think is a critical component in being a successful team.
Talking to Merril Hoge, former Steeler, NFL analyst. Check out his website, merrilhoge.com. So we had you on because we've been doing this radio show for 27 years, Merril.
Wow.
And in D.C., and there's been very little success for the football team, and they haven't been able to find that franchise quarterback. But now it's a new regime, new GM. They have the number 2 picks. Cliff Kingsbury, their offensive coordinator, Coach Caleb Williams in college. Some people are trying to connect those dots, and we kind of wanted to get your opinion on some of the guys they may draft at number 2, assuming they pick a quarterback. But let's start with Caleb Williams, because you had a different take than most on Caleb, and I respect your opinion because I know you watch as much film as anybody. So what do you see in Caleb?
Yeah, well, listen, when I said he wasn't special, and let me define special, because you get, when you do a drive-by show and you do a hit, that's the danger of it. You never really get the good details, and that matters when you describe any player at any position. Now, the reason I don't define him special, let me give you 2 guys that are special in the last 5 to 6 years. Okay, and there's only been 2, so that tells you how rare it is. Okay, C.J. Stroud last year and Joe Burrow. Now why were they special? I'll just go with C.J. Stroud last year when I was talking about he was the only first-round pick I would have taken. He was the only first-rounder that qualified as a first-rounder. And that is 2 things he did, actually a bunch of things, but 2 things he did extremely well. He was extremely accurate, and he processed things quickly and beautifully, and he functioned in the pocket. And when you can do that and you can show that at the college level, and that's not an easy thing to see. So that's another area that I'm not watching where they're playing. I'm watching where they're going to play. And so when a guy's sitting there with 4 seconds and guys are wide open, obviously I watch it and I study because you can still learn from it. But that's unrealistic. That is not happening in the National Football League. About 70% of their throws are going to be in a dirty pocket, collapsed pocket, pressure pocket. If you can't function in that arena, it's going to be a hard and arduous transition to the National Football League. And that's even if you can process things well, and let's say you are accurate. If you can't process in that area, it really is a problem. So I've seen very few players that have been able to really demonstrate that in college to give them a great chance to transition to the National Football League. Because at the end of the day, people can talk about, okay, listen, if Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson didn't have yet to win a Super Bowl by running the Super Bowl, I'm just telling you, it ain't happening. It's never going to happen. At the end of the day, well, one of the biggest runners in the history of our game, who eventually converted his legs to his arm. Now, it didn't mean he didn't use his mobility, and this is where people get confused by it. I'm not against mobility. I love it. In fact, there's value in it. And, man, if it can be used correctly, it can be a weapon. But it's usually a tool of rescue early, and then it can never be harnessed, and it can never be corralled. But Steve Young eventually won with his arm and got rid of all the things he did with his legs. Even though he made plays with his legs, which was important, the majority of the work was done from the pocket.
So, Merril, all that being said, what is your grade on Caleb Williams then, if he's not a first-rounder in your eyes?
No. I didn't say he's not a first-rounder. What I'm saying is he wasn't special from that perspective,
okay,
how he plays from the pocket. In fact, his accuracy is elite. I mean, elite. I mean. Well,
that's special then. That's special.
Yes. Well, right? I call it elite. I call it elite, but just because you're accurate doesn't mean. Now let's go to where, and actually he's extremely elusive. I'd argue he's more elusive than when Patrick Mahomes came out. So does that make him better than Patrick Mahomes? Absolutely not. That does not make him better. That is where his biggest learning curve will be. When you watch him function in the pocket, even when it's a clean pocket and he's got 4 seconds, he still doesn't throw it to the – when you look for it through his progressions, a lot of times he'll let the first guy go because it's college, I got 4 seconds, and he knows that I can make some plays happen. Okay, and that's how you play in college. And let me back that up a little bit further. It is a pure college system. It is smoke screen. It is bubbles. It is vertical, lateral passing game. And the reason that's another area of learning. In college, your field is different. Your hash marks are wider, and so they play on the perimeter. In the National Football League, we move them in the middle, and now you got to play in the middle. And now you got defenses that can scheme well, play different things, disguise things. So you have to function from the pocket. Now, a dirty pocket, he will escape and he will leave the structure of a play a lot more in college than even he does in a clean pocket. Okay, so my point is that's the area of growth where he is going to have to get better at, and there's no evidence that he can play like that. What he will rely on is his elusiveness because he won a Heisman Trophy for doing it, and he's really good at it, and his accuracy. Now, listen, he makes some bad throws too when he gets out of the pocket. I've seen him make some throws. I'm just like, in Utah, I watched some throws. I'm like, oh my gosh. There's a reason coaches don't go, hey guys, listen, here's what we're going to do. Our quarterback's going to make a play on 2. All right, everybody just get open. So that doesn't happen. You win with structure. You've got to play within structure, and from that perspective, that's going to be a big hurdle for him. Now, his first year, that's not going to happen. In fact, I want that mobility it's going to get him out of a lot of plays and help him. But eventually, he's got to convert that desire to run first and make it last. And that's a big transition. That's not an easy transition. And more than likely, he is not going to a team that's a playoff team. He is not going somewhere he's going to sit for a year. So we can forget the comparisons of Patrick Mahomes because that's what Patrick Mahomes had. Period. And so that's why when I said special, that's what I meant about.
Got you.
That's the area I look for. That's the area now, those other areas I just talked about, they are extremely exciting. They are. Now, listen, and I don't know about this, and this matters. Are you mentally tough? I'll tell you this. If you're mentally weak, they'll destroy you.
Right.
On tape, Merril, on tape, have you had a chance to watch the other quarterbacks? More than likely,
yes.
Washington with the number 2 pick, right, may not have a chance to take Caleb Williams. Because whether you believe it or not, it seems like the conventional wisdom is he's going to go number 1. So let's say the next quarterbacks, if you were in Adam Peters' chair, the GM, the new GM of the Commanders, where do you go? Do you go Jaden Daniels? Do you go Drake May? Or do you go somebody else?
Well, okay, now I haven't got through everybody, too. And that's another thing with, when I did Caleb, I was only about 6, 7 deep into it. And that gives you a pretty good foundation of stuff. Now I have 16 games, 17 games done on him. I'm completely comfortable with everything I said there. And that's going to be his biggest challenge, okay, whether Chicago or Washington, because both of those teams are going to be teams that are evolving and growing, so they're not going to have the luxury to hide their quarterback as much as possible. Now, in your position, let's say Caleb Williams goes, which I'm not going to be surprised if he goes to Chicago. Of the guys I have looked at, I've looked at Penix from Washington in May, in North Carolina, Bo Nix in Oregon, and Jaden Daniels. Of the people I've looked at, I guess I got a bunch of guys to go through, but I would take Jaden Daniels. In fact, Jaden Daniels probably demonstrates the best evidence that a guy who plays from the pocket, and now they have pro concepts they use too, so I can use some reality and some realistic concepts that you're going to see in the NFL. I think he's very accurate. I think he processes things very well. Okay, in these categories compared to May, I wouldn't touch May. I wouldn't grab May.
Ooh.
I wouldn't draft him in the first round. And there's a bunch of things that bother me. He's extremely inconsistent as his accuracy, his processing inconsistent. He's not extremely athletic. I find him more stiff. He's got a longer throwing motion, which allows more hits in our league than he gets in college. And I'm just bothered by it. In fact, I knew we were going to do this, so I just wanted to. I hadn't watched him for a couple of weeks, so one of my last games I looked at was the NC State game, and that may be one of the worst games I'd ever seen. I mean, him play, but it validated. He's at the end of the season, and it validated a couple things. He misses a lot of hots. The team misses hots. He sees hots and he doesn't throw hot. You'd have to get in the room and say, okay, why don't you throw this? To walk me through this. Okay, but that processing bothers me. In our league, man, you got to be dialed in. You got to be sharp on that. When you miss them in college, now listen, there's a certain level of coaching that doesn't exist in college based on the time frame that they have. So coaching is going to matter. We go back to we started with coaching. Man, that is going to matter, and what they're going to get is going to matter. And that could be they're going to get good coaching or they're not going to get so good coaching. And let's just assume they're going to get good coaching. So there can be a lot of things you can work through. But the one thing I have not seen, two things that always concern me, is you can't fix – a guy can talk smart on the board, but then he can't process it on the field. And if I find out that guy's like that, I wouldn't touch him ever.
I feel like that's the most important attribute.
In every position, too, by the way, not just quarterback. Mm-hmm. Okay, I told people whether it's recruiting, whether I was scouting, or whether coach, okay, we can't – everybody would say this. You guys would all agree with this. Nobody can fix speed, right? Like I can't give somebody 4.4. We all know that. Mm-hmm. So why don't we just agree, okay, you can't fix stupid. You can't give instincts. You can't give toughness. You can't give all these things that we think we can fix. You can't fix. In fact, a good coach will say, I can't fix that. I'm not – as good a coach as I am, you're not fixing that. And accept that and just move on. Don't go get him thinking – and that's the thing that I think gets people fired more. I'll fix it. You can't fix those things. I'll fix his accuracy. And there's some places people will sit there and argue with me. I have more evidence to support what I'm saying than they would have the support they have. When you see an inconsistent thrower in college, and these pockets are clean and people are wide open, okay, then you create a dirty pocket for them, it gets worse.
Merril, I could listen to you all day. But we've got commercials. We got bills to pay. People should check out.
Bills, call anytime, okay?
People can check out merrilhoge.com, motivational speaker, of course, former NFL analyst, and some interesting takes there. He's in on Jaden Daniels over Drake May.
I think I am too.
Your boy Tim Hasselbeck from ESPN loves Drake May, Merril, but we don't have time to talk to you about it. Thanks so much,
He called
Merril.
him the most perfect prospect he's ever seen. So that's the eye of the beholder, I guess.
He also said Lamar would never win a Super Bowl, right? Didn't he say that?
Lamar stinks.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Yeah. He'll never win a big game.
I don't think he was making it personal to Lamar, but he was basically saying guys that play like that. And now I actually disagree. I think Lamar will win a Super Bowl. But
he's fairly close this year.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how you can say that. But I wanted to circle back, but we're running out of time.
I know. And I got to get an in-show in.
Right.
Got to do it.
Hey, at Golfton by Worldwide Golf, there's something that binds us all. It's the collective goal to transcend the ordinary. Introducing the Cobra Dark Speed Driver, engineered with advanced aerodynamics